Okay, QTable part 2. And before I dive into this video, I want to remind you to check out quasarcomponents.com. Honestly, I am so proud of what I've been doing with this website. We cover all 72 of Quasar's components, and some of those videos are pretty in depth, especially the one on QTable. So I'm still currently working on these videos. This is going to be early access to be able to watch those videos. And we're also going to do some other stuff as well, like building out YouTube's UI. What else are we doing? You can never think of it when you're doing a live stream. We're also going to be building a live chat app using Laravel and Quasar. And you're also going to be part of a private Discord group. And this will be the only place that you can get a official Quasar t-shirt that's actually been designed by Nicolo, the guy that created the Quasar logo. So definitely go ahead and check that out. If you're interested, and we can go ahead and get started. So the title of this video, Expandable Rows and Selectable Rows. So basically that means we're going to make it so that you can click on a button here and that will expand this row and show you, for example, some children rows, which is a very common thing that people ask about with Quasar, Quasar's table component. The other thing is selectable rows. So we're going to make it so that you can have checkboxes at the start of these rows and you can toggle them on and off. And when you toggle them on and off, it'll basically set the underlying object to a value. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. First of all, I'm going to duplicate this page here and let's call it expandable, selectable. So we've got a page for that. And then what I might do is we're going to simplify things a little bit here. I'm going to cut that and change it to rows. And then we'll come down here and expose it down here. So let's say setup, and then we'll return an object there. And how about this? Let's say const rows is equal to that array. Now, I don't need to use ref here. And the reason I don't need to use ref is because these rows don't need to be reactive in this example. Oh, actually, maybe they will need to be because we're toggling some properties on them. We'll find out later on. So let's come up here and look at columns now and basically do the exact same thing. So I'm going to cut that and say columns, and then I'll come down here, say columns, and they might change a little bit in this example. Const columns is equal to an array of columns. And let's go ahead and expose that here. All right, so now that we've got this page, let's copy the name of it, copy. And then I'm going to go to our routes.js file. Oh, wrong one. We want to go to our routes index file. Oh, maybe it is our routes file. Hang on, here it is. Yep. I'm going to paste that there, copy paste that line down. And then basically what we're doing here is just pointing to that page. And we'll say when you go expandable dash rows, expandable dash selectable, we'll take them to this component. So let's copy that here, whack it in there and see if it works. And it looks like it is working because we basically have the same example there. Okay, so what next? Now that we've done that setup, later on we're going to be dealing with selectable stuff. So how about we come up here and make sure that we're prepared for that by saying const selectable is equal to a reference, and we'll set that equal to, well, just nothing by default. So let's whack out of here ref so that that's ready. And maybe instead of selectable, we'll call that selected. That might make a little bit more sense. Okay, so I'm going to customize the columns here a little bit to suit the examples we're going to be doing in this video. We want to have expand here so that it knows whether or not it's expanded as one of the columns. What else do we want? Let's call all of these expand. We'll also have ID, name, email, and age. So let's say ID. I'll just make all of these the same. ID. We've already got age, so let's just add in name and email. Simply because this is what I do in the blog post. We want to keep them pretty similar. All right, we'll save all of that. And now we can go ahead and get started with the expandable rows part. All right, so we're going to simplify this by getting rid of dark there. We'll get rid of basically everything here. We're back to a super basic example. Give that a second, see if it's going to update. No, it's not. So what have I done wrong here? Compilation error. Selected is assigned a value but never used. So basically, I think it's telling me we need to expose selected. Do that here. That should get rid of that error. And there we go. We're back to a basic example of a table. And I want to make sure that I've also got that ID field in there. Down here, ID is equal to 2. All right, cool. And notice that we've got this little spot here, which we can use for our expanded row when that's ready. All right, so in order to do expanded rows, we can basically come in here and say template, and then hashtag, which is basically short for v-slot. We can do that and then say body. Now, body in this case is going to refer to the current row. So we can say body is equal to props. And basically, that's going to have all of the props that we need to maintain styles for the cells and the rows here. So now we can say Q-TR. So basically, this is a Quasar version of the table row for a table. And it's going to allow us to basically rebuild this table. So we have total control over these rows now. And that's how we're going to end up having that expandable control. So now we'll say props is equal to props there. And if I save that, notice that we've basically got nothing there. Now we've got a bunch of rows, but there's nothing inside of them. So let's put something in there just so I can demonstrate this, something. Oop, something. And there we go. Notice that it's basically spitting that out for every single row now. And just to sort of drive this home, we can also say props.row. It's got a copy of the row. And there you can see all of our row data. We have total access to that now, which is really, really cool. All right. So now that we've hooked into that table row, I want to point out here that we're proxying these props through to this table row component, which is helping us maintain all of the styles for a QTable row. Now we can do the same thing with Q-TD. Once again, we proxy those props through there, and we can basically create a table data for every single column that we have. So, what I'm going to do now is basically recreate what we have by default for a table. So how about we say here, props.row.id. So if I do that, oh, we haven't got anything yet. Because the other thing that you need to do for a table data is say what the key is. Now, this is important. Quasar needs that key to identify what data cell it is. So if I save that now, there we go. It's starting to work. So obviously, we don't want it sitting in that expanded spot. So let's say Q-TD and have an empty table data to take up this spot for now. And later on, we're going to use that for the expanded button. All right, so I'll copy paste that down a few times. We've got the ID, name, email, age, and I think that's it from memory. Let's see. Yeah, name, email, age. So we can come in here and say name, Control D, email, select that, Control D, age, save it. And there we go. We've rebuilt the table. And now that we've rebuilt it, we've got total control over what all of this looks like. All right, so what do we want to do next? Next, we want to make it so that we've got an expanded row as well. But before we can do that, I want to show you something really cool. Basically, we have a prop here for expanded that Quasar exposes to us. I'll show you what I mean by that. So now if I come in here and I say Q-button, we can put a button inside of here that is flat. We'll make it round. And how about we give it an icon? And then what we can do for this icon is say props.expand, right? Because Quasar is going to expose this expand prop, which will make it very easy for us to basically toggle the expanded row on and off. And if it's expanded, then I want you to show a remove icon. Otherwise, I want you to show an add icon. All right. So let's save that. And there we go. Clicking it does nothing yet. So what we want to do now is say at click is equal to props.expand. And we're basically going to set that to the opposite of what it currently is. So let's just copy that. We'll make that the opposite of what it currently is. And now if I click this, we can see that we're toggling expanded on and off. Now the next part is actually quite easy. Next, if we go to the bottom here, we just create another Q-TR table row. And for this table row, we say v-show. So I only want you to show this if props.expand is equal to true. All right, so let's come in here and just write expanded, save it. Now when I toggle this on and off, it works. We now have expanded rows. That's how simple it is to do expanded rows with Quasar. However, you're probably thinking, well, I want this expanded row to sort of line up with these table cells. And in order to do that, you simply recreate all of those table cells. So let's say Q-TD, and let's just copy these properties here. Save that. And let's just paste them down. In fact, I might actually copy paste all of these. So let's go all the way up to ID, and we'll paste it in here. And then I'm going to add a blank Q-TD. And the reason I'm doing a blank one there is to fill in the spot for the expanded cell. Let's save that. And there we go. This is just repeating that data, but you can imagine you could have summaries or something else in here. So like something else. Basically, you now have total control of what sits under here. And by the way, if you really wanted to, we could copy this, paste it down again, and it's possible to have more than one row showing up in those expanded rows. So there you have it. That's how you do expanded rows with Quasar. And this isn't just showing you expanded rows. This is also showing you how you can tap in to a table row in Quasar and do whatever the hell you want with it. So we could say, for example, class is equal to background dash blue. And there we go. We can now make the background of that blue. Looks terrible, but you get the idea. Cool. All right, so that's expandable rows. What about selectable rows? Now, selectable rows are actually a much simpler simpler concept. So let me quickly show you this. We'll come up here and we'll get rid of all of the template inside of there. Oh, actually, how about we just create another example below it so that you don't lose everything? Q-table. There we go. And then we can say rows is equal to those rows that we have. And then the columns, I don't think we'll even need the columns, actually. Let's save that and see what happens. Yeah, there we go. So that's the next example down here. And now we need to give it a row key. Now, the reason we need to give it a row key is because we use that row key. In this case, we'll set it to ID. So it's going to use the ID of this object in the collection to basically uniquely identify that object. And that's going to be helpful to Quasar for when it's making these all selectable. All right, so we want the row key in there. And the only thing we have to do now is model some data, v-model selected, and we'll model selected like that. And say selection is equal to single. So basically what we're saying there is I want this to be a single selection, not multiple. So now we can come down here and select rows. How ridiculously easy was that? All we did is use the selection v model and ensure that we had the row key, which you should probably use anyway, because that can be helpful for the other things like sorting rows as well. So that's it. That's all you have to do to have selection. And if you want to have multiple, simply change that to multiple. And now that's going to model an array of what's selected. And you even get this extra checkbox at the top so you can toggle them all on and off. This really is insanely cool. I'm baffled by this amazing functionality that we get for free out of the box with Quasar. Now, another thing you might want to do is add a pre-tag here just to see that data. This is a cool little trick. And then you can just show that selected data in there. And there we go. Now you can actually see that that is in fact working and selecting everything. Now, another thing that you might want to do though is change this checkbox to something else, or basically take more control over what is selected here. And Quasar makes that ridiculously simple. So I'm actually going to copy paste this example here down. Let's get rid of that pre-tag. It's going to kind of mess with our example. Save that to see if it's working. And now in this one, we're going to change those checkboxes to toggles in order to demonstrate this. So if I come down here, I can now say, for example, template. Quasar has an amazing array of slots for the QTable component. We could say template and then hashtag header. Let's not start with header. We'll say body dash selection. So remember, body kind of means row here. So body selection. And how about we set that equal to scope? So we're going to pull the scope out of there and then say Q dash toggle. Right. So basically we're replacing this checkbox with a Q toggle. But now if I save that, it's not really going to work yet. It's not even going to work at all because it's getting annoyed that I'm not using the scope. But now we can say v-model is equal to scope dot selected. That's all we have to do, basically model this selected property on the scope. and it's just going to work now. How cool is that? And once again, I just want to demonstrate that this really does work by adding in a pre-tag there, and I will show you what is selected. So that, now we can toggle that on, and it works just the same as the checkbox. But then, of course, you might want to change this to a toggle as well for whatever reason. Let's copy paste that down. It's pretty much the exact same code, except instead of body selection, this is going to be header selection. Whoop, header selection. Save it. And there we go. Now we can toggle them on and off like so. How unbelievably cool is that? So I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed recording it for you, or live streaming it in this case. And if you like this kind of thing, then do take the time to check out quasarcomponents.com. We cover all 72 of Quasar components. It's an insanely cool series. We're also going to build YouTube's UI. We're going to build a live chat app with Laravel and Quasar, and we're going to build a Quasar app extension. And in that app extension, I'm going to show you a whole bunch of cool kind of wrapper components that I build with Quasar. That I use in a whole lot of my other projects as well. Just a few things that help me streamline stuff. Like one of them, for example, a video component where you can paste a video URL in there, and the icon will change depending on what the video is. So if it's YouTube, it'll show a YouTube red icon, and if it's Vimeo, it'll show a blue Vimeo icon. And it'll also model the ID of that video on that component. So it's really, really cool. Super proud of that series. Yeah, so thanks so much for reading. In the next video and in the next blog post, we're going to be covering loading state, pagination, and sorting. And you're really going to love pagination. There's some really cool stuff you can do with that. So once again, check out quasarcomponents.com. Hope you enjoyed this one, and I'll see you in a future stream. Bye for now.